Who will be Khamzat Chimaev's toughest test in this middleweight division? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Against the Fence, where you know this is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC. Because in this show, we're going to be recapping the events from UFC 319 this past weekend, all the gossip to follow the event as well, and talk about some upcoming matchups that we want to see from these winners and losers. We've got a couple of things we want to talk about tonight. Let's bring them up on screen, shall we? We'll talk about Chimaev's first title defense. Who should it be against? And I've got a curveball to throw in there as well. One that I don't think you've considered. So do make sure you stick around for that. Hit a like on the video as well. We'll talk about Michael Venom Page's middleweight and welterweight dilemma. He's not sure which division he's going to be entering back into next. Following his second win at middleweight. So we'll dissect that and I'm going to give you guys some good options for both divisions, just in case. We'll talk about Sean Strickland's rant, which he did prior to UFC 319. But I think there are some elements to it that we can dissect and try and put together what could eventually come, or what he was trying to do. Some things that he might have felt were going to happen happened. And then we'll talk about Lerone Murphy's title shot, because there's been a lot of talk about that. Volk's come out following his win against Aaron Pico. And we'll also talk about some other news as well. Frankie Edgar entering BKFC, that's another topic as well. So make sure you stick around, hit a like on the video, folks, as I said a second ago, and subscribe if you're new to the channel, because we're a UFC fan channel where fan opinions matter most. I'm just going to quickly dial that down. There we go. Go away. And yeah. So let's kickstart things then. Let's drop that down actually first, shall we? Pop that down. Bosh. Recapping some. I didn't really see any of the prelims. My picks were absolutely atrocious all night. I think I only got one main card fight right. So I've slipped down in the rankings, in the ATF leaderboard, probably, most likely. The underdogs I put on the night in my picks were Jessica Andrade and Michael Venom, Jared Cannonier. Wasn't expecting Drakkar Klose to beat Edson Barbosa. Wasn't expecting Alexander Hernandez to beat Chase Hooper. I had Chase Hooper via submission in round 2, but Hernandez actually, I did catch that fight, to be fair. Tell a lie. I did catch the finish. It was literally seconds from the end of round 1. So props to Hernandez for getting a win. And then, yeah, Tim Elliott is another one that shocked me a bit. It was a good underdog. There's a lot of 50-50 fights, I would say, in this over this past weekend. Like I was saying at the start of the watch along, I felt that MVP Jared Cannonier could go either way. Carlos Prates and Jeff Neal could go either way. And they were probably two of my closest fights, I feel, as well as perhaps the main event as well. You know, I picked Dricus du Plessis heading into this. And I was actually quite surprised during fight week to find out who else was picking Dricus du Plessis. So I thought that most people would go for Chimaev, being the most obvious options, but I was shocked. I was damn right shocked about that. 2 seconds. I'm just going to, but yeah, feel free to get your questions in the chat as well, guys. We're gonna get through quite a lot in this live show. I want to hear who you think Dricus should be fighting next. I want to also hear whether or not you think Aaron Pico will return and who his next fight will be, and what your predictions are for Volkanovski versus Lerone Murphy. So let's not forget about that. I'm just going to quickly do this. Oh, no. Okay. Double check that. Okay, cool. No worries. But so let's get into it then, shall we? Let's head into welcome on in. Let your thoughts be known in the chat. So I want to hear you guys as we recap then the main card. Let's talk about Tim Elliott's performance against Kai Asakura. I want to get some fight predictions from you guys as well in there. But Tim Elliott, man, he had massive beard for all the photos that he had was in the lead up to fight week. And the UFC kind of said to him, look, mate, you got to get rid of the homeless look. That's what it looked like. Because he trimmed it down and it looked pretty sharp. But his striking wasn't very effective, but the timing on his takedowns were very perfect. One could argue that Elliott deserves a much higher ranked fighter after this fight. Kai Asakura, I felt he was fighting well up until the takedown happened. His jab was like a piston. And to be fair, I'd still like to see him do good in this division. I really do. 2 tough losses for him. I got 2 good options for him next. I think the UFC should stick him around a little bit because he is entertaining. I think he's still got to find his feet, if I'm honest. Welcome on in, Toad Eats, who says, what was your total picks? Total picks? Oh, mate, good question. Mate, it was terrible. It was terrible. I think I went for... Here we go. Let's have a look then on the app. Get in the MMA Fantasy app if you can. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 picks all night. Out of what? 12, whatever it is. Yeah, it was atrocious. It was atrocious. What's up, Ash, who says, yes. What's up, people? Yes. Show Ash some love in the chats. But were you impressed by Tim Elliott's performance? He's an old dog. There's 2 submission wins in a row for him now. He's got to be moving up in the rankings. If we take in and have a look, as you can see, Tim Elliott has moved above Steve Erceg, which was actually quite surprising because I thought that Erceg was still going to be above him. I've actually got Tim Elliott versus Steve Erceg as my prediction for the next fight. But some could argue that Tim Elliott deserves to fight higher because he's coming off of 2 straight wins, both finishes as well. So my other option would be Kai France. Now, Kai is coming off of that domination by Pantoja. It could be him, but I'd prefer to see the UFC pair him up against Manel Karp. I think there's a story there to develop. The 2 hate each other. They had beef in the past. But at the same time, is it a bit of a risky move on the UFC's part? Because, like, they tried to make that fight before and it didn't really work out. You know, I'm a little bit skeptical of it. So I think the Steve Erceg fight would be a safer option. Erceg did scrape past Ode Osborne not too long ago. So I think I would like to see him fight experienced guy in Tim Elliott. And I'd be interested to see if Tim Elliott can take him down. We all know that Erceg will have success on the feet. Tim Elliott's got a bit of a funky style to him. He gives you a lot of lurks on the feet. And, you know, we saw that in the Asakura fight. He just didn't really land very well, in my opinion. So, yeah, for Elliott, I'll give him Erceg or Kai France. For Kai Asakura, 2 options for him. It's got to be either the Sumadaji versus Kevin Borjas fight, with the winner of that fight, because it will go down this weekend in China, or it should be Ode Osborne. You know, he has looked pretty good as of recent, despite losing to Steve Erceg. And yeah, I think it's a fun fight for both guys. It makes a lot of sense. For Asakura, it's a chance for him to prove fight fans that he does belong in this division by fighting someone who's just outside of it. Osborne got a crack at a ranked opponent because he stepped in at short notice. I think he was meant to fight the Korean dude who fought Tatsuro Taira, didn't he? Toad Eats says, why do you have MMA channel if you can only get 4 pick from 12? Well, look, mate, you win some or you lose some, but guess what? Who's in the top 5 of the ATF league? Me, right? So the inconsistency isn't there. The consistency, sorry, isn't there. We have some good weeks. We have some bad weeks. But I'm top 5. Check it out on the MMA Fantasy app. That's where you can find us. I'm also playing the game element as well, but I haven't been playing it as often as I should. Nobody heard of the ATF League. Well, you're in the wrong app, mate. You're in the wrong app. You're in the wrong app. But what do you think about some future matchups then for the flyweights and for upcoming fighters like Michael Venom Page in the middleweight division or welterweight division? Which division do you want to see him in next? There's a lot of options for him, and I got some good ones. Good ones. So yeah, let's wrap it up for the flyweight division. Let's move on then to that second fight of the night, which was between Michael Venom Page and Jared Cannonier. Now, the biggest takeaway from this fight was MVP's takedown defense. Now, granted, Cannonier isn't known for his wrestling ability, but I thought Cannonier's strength would be enough to execute takedowns. You know, we've seen MVP get taken down by Ian Machado Gary. He prefers to clinch up with the body lock, get the trip, and he did get him MVP down quite easily. And I thought, you know what, if Ian Machado Gary can do it, I'm quite confident that a bigger, stronger Jared Cannonier can do it. So that's the reason why I went for Cannonier via decision. But look, props to MVP, man. He's still elusive on the feet. He can still run with it, even though he's pushing into his 40s now. All right, okay, Cannonier, I think, was older than him coming into this fight. But what do you want to see next from MVP? Cannonier was a little bit gun shy, I felt. You know, I felt there was a few occasions against the cage where he probably should have broken away and tried to land multiple punching combinations and just kind of trap MVP towards the cage there. But I mean, look, easy said than done. MVP's just so good at distance management. He's so good at just being laser sharp with his strikes. And look, all it needed was those big ones in rounds 1 and 2 to land flush and score rounds off of. Really. Toady says, your fit weight matchups are all recency biased picks. Oh, flyweight matchups, recently biased picks. Yeah, but the thing is, mate, the UFC do kind of go off of timing. If you've been in this game longer than I have, it's researching the analytics and things like that, you will notice patterns. People tend to fight at certain times of the year, and if two people fight in the same month, they're most likely going to get paired up. Of course, there is ranking elements of it as well, but thanks for your chat, Toad. What's your name, buddy? Where are you from? Well, gotta know, wanna know. So for my options then for MVP, let's bring into the rankings here because a lot has been shifted. MVP moves up to 10 now. Smash a like on the video if you've not done so already, especially for MVP. That's the highest he's climbed so far in a UFC ranking, I believe. So if you're MVP, why would you not want to move down to welterweight? I mean, I think toyed with the idea of moving back down to welterweight. But why would you not want to stick at middleweight? Is it just matchups that are ahead of him? Because one particular matchup that I would prefer to see him in would be against Robert Whittaker, who is 2 spots above him there. He suffered some tough losses recently and is past his peak. Both move so well on the feet. Whittaker's probably got better wrestling, or he has got better wrestling than Jared Cannonier. So there's that element to the fight that's intriguing. Can MVP fend off those takedowns? It's a big fight against 2, fairly popular guys, I would say, in the UFC. So why would you not want to make that fight? Because anyone above him up there is a little bit tougher. Okay, he could maybe get the loser of of Carvalho and Nasinim Imavov. That's a possibility. But then either of those could fight Sean Strickland when Sean Strickland comes back from suspension. There's a lot of moving pieces here in this division. There really is. Damo. Yes, Damo. Good to see you. What's good, bro? Who says the most accomplished Bellator fighter. Yeah, no, he is. He literally is, which is kind of crazy, right? And I see on social media, like, people are poking fun at the Bellator fighters as of recent, that Bellator fighters are 0-3 now in the UFC in terms of debuts. But I'm like, no, come on, bring this back a little bit. Let's include MVP, who beat Kevin Holland in his debut. Let's include Michael Chandler, who beat Dan Hooker in his debut. Another one, Alexander Volkov, I think, did he win in his debut? Because he came from Bellator as well. That was a long time ago. Did he win in his UFC debut? He did, yeah, against Timothy Johnson. So look, I think there are more there to add to that. You know, the last 5-6 years, yeah, I would say it's 2-3, and it's not looking good. But I don't know what you guys think about the matchup for Patricio Pitbull. I've not really looked at that dude from Octagon who's coming over, or Patchy Mix's future fight, because, you know, the UFC are like, we're just going to hand you Dana White Contender Series level fighters now. Oh, but all right, granted, the Octagon guy looks fairly experienced, right? 2-division champion over there. He's getting, well, not quite the Kaya Sakura treatment, but he's getting thrown in there with a ranked opponent straight away, so he must be pretty good. Damien says it's because they keep giving them hard opposition straight away. They gave Pico a win away from a title shot. They need to give these people unranked opponents to build. No, I've got to agree with you, mate. I've got to completely agree with you. When they first announced that Pico was coming over and Patricio Pitbull was coming over, I gave Dan Ige an option for Pico. Because Dan Ige is someone who's never really kind of hit top 10 sort of level. He's been floating around 15 and 10 for a number of years now. He's had some good wins. He's been around the game in the UFC for some time, and look, both guys love to crack. It's a fun fight to make. You've got, you know, Pico's still fairly young in this game. Patricio, I thought Patricio was going to enter lightweight, if I'm honest, and I would have liked to have seen him fight like a Gamrot or someone like that for his debut, not top 3 Yair Rodriguez, whose style is so unique that it's a tough matchup for anyone, you know? Yes, George Mary's in the house. Yes, chat. What is good, my man? Yes, what's good, George? What did you think? Oh, did you catch the fights? What did you think of them? And of course, who do you want to see next for Michael Venom Page? Now, the welterweight options that I've got for him, I've got 2 actually, because I think they're easier fights to make for the UFC. My first one would be Colby Covington, because that guy, he just barely fights. He needs to get back in there. Like, you just are just a bit sick of Colby Covington, right? And I feel like MVP would love that fight. Colby, probably not so much, but he kind of needs someone with a bit of hype behind him. Otherwise, there's no one else for him, right? He can't pick and choose who he's going to fight these days and just kind of look at how he can worm his way back into title contention, because, mate, it ain't going to work. Do you know what I mean? The other option is Carlos Prates. The two were seen partying after the event. And I think Prates, I think they both may have verbally agreed to fight whilst they hung out. So that's an option. However, I don't think Carlos Prates, I think he would rather have a better option than MVP. If I'm honest, you know, I think it's a perfect matchup for MVP to climb up in the welterweight rankings, because he was recently talking about the fact that he reckons he beat Jack Della Maddalena in a recent interview after the Jerry Cannonier fight. So something tells us that maybe he is looking at moving back down to welterweight, but I don't think it's the right move. I really do. You know, welterweight is full of killers. There's a lot of wrestling heavy opponents up there. Of course, Islam Makhachev entering the rankings, Bilal Muhammad, Sean Brady, Shavkat can wrestle, Kamara Usman. You know, it's just, it's a bit tough. Damo says MVP versus Holland was a great debut. Holland isn't an elite, but always game. Same for Dan Hooker. But Pitbull got Yair, who has been fighting for world titles, and Murphy, who's on a roll. It's bad matchup. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. But again, we said time and time again in this channel, really, haven't we, that the UFC just like to, it's a win-win for them either way. If they win those fights, then it puts them into title contention. It's this fresh, new face into the organization who's got instant hype behind them. And then on the flip side, it's also a chance for Dana and the brass to be like, look, these were the PFL Bellator's top stars, and they can't even hang with our top 10 guys, top 5 guys, you know? So, look, they're going to get their worth out of them, but I totally agree with you. I think they needed building up. You know, the lights over in that arena that the UFC put on, it's completely different. It's a different experience. And look, Derek Brunson recently came out and sort of, I think he posted a picture of a clown, and the caption was kind of like, you know, me after realizing that leaving the UFC wasn't a good idea sort of thing. And he did comment on a few people's posts following that. It's kind of saying, you know, the grass isn't always greener. You know what good the UFC do provide for you. You could get a big, you know, accept big pay fights over at PFL, but they're not going to bring them to you as frequent as you'd hope for. And everyone in the PFL is getting frustrated with them because they're just not putting on enough events. You know, they're blowing out cash, going to Africa and all that, and they're blowing cash on their stars, or star, should we say, and no one else is coming in and getting really much of a look in. George Murray says, I did catch them on Sunday. Good man. Glad you found some time. Interested to know what your thoughts are. Damo says, if they win, then fights, they are like 0-3 in 2025. I know. Yeah, you got to look at it like that. I totally get you now. Yeah, look at it like that. They need to just revisit how they treat these guys coming over. Agreed. But then who else do you really want to see coming over? What's his name? The Russian cat, light heavyweight, who was former Bellator champion. He should maybe make a way over, or matey boy from American Top Team, Johnny Eblen. Everyone wants to see him come over. Guess they're the sort of next names you want to look at. George Murray says MVP needs to stay at middleweight. To be honest, he's essentially higher in the ranks there, or at welterweight, I'd say Buckley. Fair? Yeah, Buckley's a good one as well. You know, it's that power versus precision type thing. Buckley's got, again, another guy who can wrestle. Damo says, I think they need warming up. Let them build the UFC as a different experience. I'm not saying they are bad fighters, but they won't wake up UFC ready to take time. I hope they take time with PFL. Yeah, agreed, man. Umar will eventually come over, etc. They need to be. Oh, mate, that's another one as well. Yeah, I mean, but then Umar has been killing it right over there. So the UFC, would you want to give him someone outside the top 10? Because he's like a Dagestani guy who's just been I mean, okay, Paul Hughes fights were close, right? So would you give him a top 10 guy at lightweight? I think that surely is their plan as well, right? For Makhachev to move up in weight, and then Umar comes over to the UFC and fights for lightweight gold. Does he fight for the belt straight away? Does he get a tune-up fight against a Gamrot or a Dariush or Gaethje? You know, Gaethje would be an ideal one because Gaethje surely has done everything in the division already and is probably on his way out. So yeah, that's my take on that. Damon said he's definitely been killing it, but so was Pico and so was Pitbull. Proof is in the pudding. Yeah, true, man. True. I know Pico's chin was suspect coming into this. It did worry me because he had been knocked out devastatingly in his earlier years. But yeah, no, he was on a tear since those losses. But yeah, I agree. MVP versus Rob is a good fight. Yeah, it makes the most sense. As for Jared Cannonier, though, what I would give him next is I got the Abus Magomedov versus Joe Pyfer winner. That fight takes place in October at UFC 320. We got neither of those guys are ranked. Would they earn a ranking? If Joe Pyfer goes out there, gets an impressive win, does he get ranked again? Does Roman Kopylov fall out? He's coming off of a loss. Potentially. You're also looking at, could Paulo Costa, is Paulo Costa fight Cannonier? I can't remember. No. So that's also another potential option. Because I don't think the UFC are going to give him a big fight. I can't see it. Because he's had some horrible performances against top level guys. Like Robert Whittaker and Izzy, of course, and Sean Strickland. And I guess there's some fresh faces who have leapfrogged him since. But I can't see it, man. Can't see it. MVP versus Strickland, says George Murray. Mate. They've used guys to leapfrog. They've used Strickland before to as a stepping stone. They did it with Alex Pereira, and I feel like MVP's on quite a big contract, having been the face of Bellator for a long time. And the fact his UFC record is, what is it, 3-2? 2-3? I actually can't remember. He beat Kevin Holland. Oh no, I'm completely wrong. He's 3-1. Fair, 3-1. That's pretty good going still. But I think you would expect him to have climbed a lot higher, right? Costa is ranked 13, and he's talking about fighting Hamzat. I know. But look, so was Strickland prior to the fight as well. And I feel like and he talks smack. We're going to play that video a little bit later on. I'll get my reaction to it. So yeah, stick around for that because that's going to be fun. Yeah, they certainly know how to get or try and get people talking. But look, no one's going to be talking about Paulo Costa fighting Hamzat. Let's be real. George Murray says Paddy versus Umar. If Paddy falls off, I like it. It's not a great one for Paddy, I must admit. If they made MVP versus Bullet, then why not Izzy? I understand they are mates, but money makes sense, and that Saudi money gets anyone on the cage. That is true. I think that hopefully we see more of the Saudi money come over in the next year or two, maybe in 2026, right? Because at the end of the day, John Jones said, I want 30 million to fight Tom Aspinall. The next day, the UFC said, yep, we can do it, 30 million. And John Jones wasn't expecting the UFC to accept it. And then he backfired on it. So I think there is Saudi money to play for. And look, if the UFC want to make that fight, it would probably have to be a headliner. And yeah, like they said, for the right money. It's a good one. But would it really be entertaining though? For name value, the build-up would be quite fun. Maybe they'll make it a little bit like Heart Entertainment, perhaps. But when they're actually in there, I just think it'll be similar to maybe Izzy Costa, perhaps, a war Wonder Boy against Darren Till. They're just kind of examples of similar styles going up against each other. It's just that kind of point style, really. Both guys not the most output. So, yeah, see that. Brendan Allen versus Jared says George Murray says main card opener or future prelim. Yeah, that makes sense. Jared's kind of fallen off quite a bit, really. The Gregory Rodriguez win was solid. Like, he looked amazing in that fight. He paced himself well. He let Rodriguez punch himself out, and then he took advantage of it. And showed that old dog is not done yet. But look, Cannonier was fighting in headliners, and now he's kind of slipping out a little bit. So, yeah, perhaps I can see that. JK, want to hear a joke? Always, mate. We're open to jokes in the live chats. Get your jokes in, folks. Yes. All for that. Smash a like on the video, folks, if you've not done so already. Yeah, that's all I've got time for the... We'll return to the middleweight division shortly, but let's head on over to talk about Carlos Prates' performance against Jeff Neal. Man, what a knockout. First spinning back elbow of the night. And I picked Prates. He was the only fighter I picked correct on the main card. But heading into this, I felt that Jeff Neal's very good technically, and I feel that his pace could have been enough to cause Prates some problems. But Prates' movement and his defense is actually pretty solid. He's got that Muay Thai style and shows that, you know, he can really get some decent finishes in the UFC and land flashy techniques as well in the process. Oh, George, come on. Why do me like that? Why do me like that? Bro. Damo says the issue with the middleweight division is nobody really deserving. Sure, Imavov and Kyle are up next, but Hamzat said October and nobody deserves it. RDR needs another win. Fair assessment. Yeah, we'll get into that in a bit too. There's a lot to go through. And I've got one option, which I don't think you guys are going to think of for Hamzat, which I prefer over any of the middleweight fights at the moment. It's a little clue there. George Murray says, Pirates versus Spider-Man. Yeah, I've got to see what we do there. My whole bet was ruined by Andrade. She cost me 860. Oof, that's tough. I thought Andrade was a good underdog into that fight, to be fair as well. But yeah, for Carlos Prates then, who do we want to see him fight next? Because for me, it's got to be... He moves in at number 9 now. So back in there, getting up there. I would give him Joaquin Buckley. You know, could we see a repeat of the Ian Machado-Gary fight, though, for Carlos Prates if he gets paired up against Joaquin Buckley? Because if you think there would be a finish in that fight, tell me who for as well. Do you think Buckley's most likely to knock him out? Because, look, Buckley can knock anyone dead. We've seen that, right? And Prates does some solid damage to the body. He could cause Buckley to gas early and then TKO him perhaps late in the 3rd round. What do you think about that fight? It's a tough one. Look, Buckley in the welterweight, I'm a fan of. Seeing Prates at welterweight, I'm a fan of as well. Main event fight night, if they're scraping the barrel and they can't fill any cards, why not? Why not? Leon in London isn't a bad shout, says Damo. That was my other option. Leon Edwards, this is who he called out after the Jeff Neal fight. I feel that the UFC might want to book him against Ian Machado-Gary, though. You know, I like both fights for London, right? I think, to be fair, the English crowd is kind of falling off of Leon Edwards a bit, especially after the Sean Brady fight. It was a horrendous fight for the UFC to make for Leon in his home country. It really was, right? If you want to bring the UK fans and get them excited about another Leon Edwards fight, you've got to pair him up against an Ian Machado-Gary or a Carlos Prates. Prates, because he's a finisher, and fans have been gravitating towards him lately. For Machado-Gary, you've got the whole storyline there of Ian went to train at their gym, he got kicked out and all that. So there's a bit of a build-up, right? And they're going to talk trash, I think, more so than Edwards versus Prates. I think Edwards and Prates would probably have a bit more respect for each other. So, I don't know, which fight would you rather see, guys? Would you rather see Leon Edwards take on Carlos Prates, or would you like to see Leon Edwards take on Ian Machado-Gary? Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the chats as well if you're joining us live. Let's hear it. London card is a long way off, says George Murray. March it is. You're right. It's going to come around pretty thick and fast, though, I reckon. So they might start planning it. Maybe Leon is waiting around for that. You know. I don't know. I paid $300 to see him lose to Brady, says Damo. Oh, jeez. Did you have a good time? That's the best. That's what matters most, isn't it? Right? As long as you had a good time. As for Jeff Neal, I think we've got to see him against Gabriel Bonfim, really. He recently beat a veteran in Stephen Wonderboy Thompson by a split decision. Give him another veteran in Jeff Neal. But does he deserve to fight someone higher in the rankings after coming off a split decision win? I'm not too sure about that. That's the only option I've got for Jeff Neal. Other than that, I guess you could deal Neal versus Burns. Maybe. Because Gilbert Burns, he's not in a decent run at the moment. And I feel like he also needs a veteran to fight next if he's going to get back in there. I can't see him fighting as often as well now, Burns. Because Burns was going through a period of fighting at least, 2 or 3 times a year. And since getting knocked out by Jack Della Maddalena and Michael Morales, I think, and, you know, he's having fun on the Show Me the Money podcast. I just can't see him fighting twice a year anymore. Damo says Edwards versus Gary, England versus Ireland, London, O2 in either London or Dublin. Yeah, see, look, Damo's all for it. Would you pay to go see it? Not enough Irish talent to take it to Dublin. Well, I mean, yeah. Since though Ian Machado Gary does most of his camp in Brazil as well, I think it's a shame, really, that he decides to do that and not connect with the Irish fans as much. But at the same time, I can see why he's doing that, because he doesn't want to be labelled as like Conor McGregor 2.0 and fans saying, but he thinks he's Conor McGregor. Like, so I kind of sympathise with him with that. You know, it's tough. It's tough, man. But yeah, make it happen in London. Get some Irish fans over. Let's make it heated, but not too heated. You know what I mean? Damon says Ian is a clown. As a fighter, amazing. As a man, I've seen some questionable actions. Agreed. I'm the same as well. I'm the same with that. I think he's a fun fighter to watch and to see him excel in this division, especially since coming off a Shavkat Rakhmonov loss. I think he has got better as well. And yeah, there's some fun fights still to be made for him. Still like to see him against Sean Brady or Bilal Muhammad. Or, of course, Leon Edwards, you know. So we'll see. What time will tell. You know, I'm quite interested. When was Ian Machado Gary's last fight? Was it like December? Oh, April. Oh, yeah. The Kansas City card. So it's quite some time ago. And he was very active last year, having 3 fights. Is he injured? I don't even know. Isn't that weird? 3 fights in 2023. 2 fights in 2022. He's only had 1 fight this year, so he's due to return at the end of this year. If not, the UFC are trying to keep him for March. I think that's pretty clear. And then in the summer, in autumn, he'll just do a lot of appearances. You know, Q&As and all that. Just to get a little bit of dollar. I've seen enough. Edwards versus Gary, Wembley, 90,000. Oh, we're still waiting for that Wembley Stadium event, aren't we, guys, in the UK? We're still clinging on to it. I mean, look, I think it's possible. Dana doesn't want to do it. He's afraid of the rain, etc. Look, if Tom Aspinall beats Garn, then there's nothing else left for him. If you give him a Volkov fight that people have already seen, just make it in a stadium in the UK. People will come out for it still. You know. George says Edwards, Gary, because the storyline, but Edwards versus Carlos is entertaining. Yeah. I think from like a fight perspective, Edwards, Carlos, for a build-up perspective and just pure entertainment ahead of the fight, Ian Machado, Gary. Yeah, I know, I like it. It's tough one to call. But let's head on back and let's talk about then The co-main event, guys, smash a like on the video. We've not got long left before we get into Khamzat Chimaev, his toughest test in this division, future matchups that we want to see him in. We'll talk about Frankie the Answer Edgar heading into BKFC. We will recap that clip that Sean Strickland posted prior to UFC 319 as well, so stick around and let's go through it. Damo says, Tom won't headline Wembley. These promoters are all buddy-buddy with the owners of the Co-op Arena in Manny. New arena, so they want the boost. Yeah, that's true, actually. That is true. They'll do that. Yeah. I mean, it would make me sick if they did it at the Etihad Stadium, wouldn't it? It would. But yeah, I think you're onto something there, Damo, for sure. Let's talk about Lerone Murphy's performance against Aaron Pico. He certainly made it competitive, and he invited pressure. He invited the pressure from Aaron Pico early, and it was part of his game plan. Aaron Pico, however, he mixed up his offense well and landed good shots to the body, but was overextending a lot of his punching combinations. The timing of his takedowns were good as well. I felt like he was winning the rounds. But prior to this fight, in the watch-along, I said to you guys, Lerone Murphy needs a spectacular knockout. He needs a highlight reel in order to boost his stock and put himself into potential title contention, because he had a few decisions, and I felt like it would have been a tough call for the UFC to put him in there against Volk. But he went out there and did it. You know, he did it against a guy who's been knocked out badly before. If we head into the rankings, as we can see, he moves into 4th there. That's a lot higher than I thought. That's actually a lot higher than I thought. And I think that's a clear indication, in my opinion, that he is next in line for the title. And look, Volk even said it himself. He said, let's do it in December. Murphy possesses a unique test for Volk, in my opinion. Volk has also said he tried to get Evelev the title shot, but Evelev, he pulled out of the Pico fight. UFC, he said the UFC are not too keen on, rewarding Evelev the title shot after doing that. So his next title defense has to be Murphy. He's the only one left. Murphy, I think, responded on social media today saying that it's pretty cold in December, and maybe he was hinting at a potential knockout win again. So if we look at his resume, prior to the Pico fight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decisions in a row. His last knockout win was in 2021 against Makwan Americani, and that was a knee. So, look, fair play to Murphy. I was spot on with that. I was cheering for Pico, though. As bad as I say it, yes, I'm a Brit. I went against the guy. Yes, I feel shit for it. But I have been watching and keeping an eye on Aaron Pico for a lot longer than I had been for Lerone Murphy. And I felt that Pico still possesses potential star quality. But of course, that is kind of slipping away now, I just think he's fairly marketable. He's got some strong accolades behind him. American fighters in general really need to buck up their ideas, because they've only got like one champion now, and that's Kayla Harrison. It's pretty rough. So they're going to be clinging on to it. So, yeah, make the Volk fight. Murphy is deserving. I can't argue, says Damo. George says Gary is in the corner watching his wife take... Oh, dear. Damo says, I've seen this story before. Leon Edwards, not a massive draw. Dana putting bigger names ahead of him, and the story always plays out for the underestimated winning the gold. Yeah, exactly, mate. I'm spot on, because, yeah, it's exactly what I was kind of saying in the watch-along as well. Like, it took Leon Edwards, that highlight reel knockout in the last round against Usman, to catapult him into stardom. It really did. Because prior to that, look, not even British fans weren't even jumping on board with him. He was winning fights by decision. And yeah, Lerone Murphy does exactly the same. It's crazy. But can he do the same to Volk is the next question. Because Volk, we've seen Volk get knocked out recently, right? Twice in a row. The fight against Diego Lopez was a fantastic display. He looked like Volk of old, was back. Fans were pleased by his performance. But who's more likely to get the knockout win over Volk? Diego Lopez or Lerone Murphy? Clearly, from this past weekend, even though Diego Lopez was storming through Mandem on his way up to the title fight, I would argue that Lerone Murphy gives Volk a lot more looks on the feet and a lot more problems. So it's not going to be a cakewalk for Volk. I think it's close. However, the thing is, the caveat in this is the grappling. Murphy's takedown defense isn't the most solid in the featherweight division. And Volk probably can mix in takedowns, and he will time them well. Control Murphy on the ground. All right, props to Murphy. He did actually quite well get back to his feet against Pico. And Pico's a strong wrestler, right? Can he do the same to Volk? So a lot of questions coming into this potential title fight. George says, my mate fought at the Ipswich's ground and it rained and it made the whole show a shambles. I vaguely remember that. Yeah. It's a logistical nightmare. Murphy versus Allen, they pulled Mofar out to prep him for a title fight, and now they're no clear contender. Bring back AAA versus Murphy, MSG, November, #1 contender fight. Depends on Volk, doesn't it? Volk seems healthy though, and he's ready to go for December. If Volk gets injured in the build-up, then yeah, I can see that. It's a perfect opportunity. And Arnold Allen's currently healing up from a shoulder injury as well, so we'll see about that. Damo says, it gets to a point when the UFC is forced to give the deserving title shot, and yes, he can beat Volk. Volk's still good, great even, but hunger beats everything. Spot on there. Damo's got some banging comments this evening. Props to Damo. Smash a like on the video for him. Yeah. It like, and there is definitely something about us Brits, right? Apart from Darren Till, right? Darren Till didn't show up for that Tyron Woodley fight at all. There is something about us Brits that when we get put into title fights, we make it happen. Right? What's our record now for title fights? Because I'm thinking about it like, all right, Bisping won the belt. He was the first guy to do it. Prior to that, Dan Hardy failed against GSP. Then Bisping lost the belt to GSP. Darren Till losing to Tyron Woodley. So, what was it, 3-3? Perhaps? Unless there's another Brit who has fought for the belt that I'm not thinking of at the moment. Yeah, I'd say. George Murray says, or Lopez versus Silva, winner against Murphy or Allen. Oh, that's another thing. Yes, Lopez versus Silva. I forgot about that fight. The winner of that is definitely getting a solid fight after. Like, if Gene Silva pulls it off, he's there. He's like the next contender. Everyone's barking mad about him at the moment and his trajectory. See what I did there? So, yeah. People are going to want to see him in a title fight. Timing-wise, it's not going to make sense. So, Lerone is the best option at the moment. You know, and he's in top 4 for a reason now. Top 4 for a reason. As for Aaron Pico, guess question for him is how long will he be out for after that knockout? It's got to be about a year, right? And which is a shame because he's just waited out a year, I think, to try and get out of the PFL contract or whatever it was, you know, that he was being tied down to. Would you give him a UFC ranked opponent next? I guess it goes back to what Damo was talking about earlier about giving these guys a bit of a tune-up fight when they enter from Bellator. Yeah, I've got two options for him. You give him Billy Quantillo He hasn't been back to his best. 2 wins in his last 6 fights. Last loss to Cub Swanson back in December. I think that was by knockout as well. So he's been taking some time off. Maybe Quantillo might want to return later on this year. So maybe timing doesn't make sense for that fight. The other option, I believe, could be good for Pico would be Charles Jourdain. He's got 7 wins and 7 losses on, I believe, 1 draw or no contest. Was it draw? In the UFC. He's a finisher and he's always in exciting fights. So how could you not want to see Pico, who brings it, almost Michael Chandler-esque, right? He's got solid hands, power in his hands, and some wrestling as well. However, maybe he's trying to be a little bit more educated in his approach than Chandler. Why would you not want to see him against Charles Jourdain? Right? He's got flashy kicks in his arsenal. He's been in there against some top talent. Coming off a win against Victor Henry, guillotine choke, so that was surprising. But he's lost against Gene Silva, now in the rankings. Sean Woodson, split decision, mind you. But he's very awkward because he's kind of tall and wiry. He's beaten Ricardo Ramos, Kron Gracie, lost against Nathaniel Wood, Shane Burgos. Or, you know, some Brits might want to pair him up against Nathaniel Wood, but I think Nathaniel Wood deserves a ranked opponent now. And hopefully his time comes later on this year for that. You know, he could get an Ige or a David Unama. I replied on his Twitter post the other day saying Giga Chikadze, you know, you're free in December, because I think Giga Chikadze would make sense as well. Damo says Murphy won, won't give up, and Volk has less impressive performances against shorter men. What's Murphy? 5'7"? I believe he's at 5'7", 5'8", yeah. Mendez, Jose, and Ilya, his hardest fights. That's right. That is true. Yeah. Yeah, spot on. I was going to say Ige for Pico, but I reckon he still gets slept. Oh, no. Yeah, I do really like Ige versus Pico. I still would love to run that one as well. Do Pitbull versus Pico. Find out who is worse. Yeah, mate. Do it without fans. Just me let them fight and report back. Yeah. Especially if Pitbull loses to this guy coming over from Octagon. Like, because then if you UFC, what else do you do with him? You know? He had 1 win against Ige, but then 4 shorts against a debutant. So, yeah. All right, let's digress. Let's move on to talking about the main event then, where Khamzat Chimaev picks up the win against Dricus du Plessis. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I felt like Thanos had captured the Infinity Gauntlet, and we're now in the end game after that main event. Because who's going to defeat this man? Literally, I feel like then someone needs to do an edit. Who's better at Photoshop than I am? We need an edit, like Avengers Infinity War style, where Khamzat is Thanos, and then you've got like Sean Strickland as Captain America, like Carvalho as Hulk, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, who else would we say? Iron Man as like Dricus, perhaps, or Nasruddin and Movov's like, I don't know, Israel, Black Panther, of course. You know, so I think we can make this edit happen, right? But a lot of fans found this fight boring. And did you guys find it boring, or did you enjoy the fight? There's been a lot of back and forth. Mighty Mouse has been defending Khamzat, saying, you know, if you don't, it is MMA. If you want to see a stand-up war, watch kickboxing, watch boxing. But there, yeah, you could argue there's some levels of stalling. The little tippy-tappy punches that Khamzat was doing for most of the time in the crucifix were pointless. They weren't fight-ending. Me and Sai were having an argument with Ash because Ash felt like there were rounds that were 10-8, but let's be real, there wasn't enough damage being done. I felt like Khamzat could have taken more risks to land heavy elbows, but it's crazy because he starts off as this like marauder of finishing people, like in the first and second round, We all doubt his cardio because of previous performances against Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman. And then when he does go the full 5 and looks solid throughout, people are kind of been bashing him and not crediting him. So look, I got to throw out some positives in there. The cardio myth was shown. However, you know, his control was just exceptional. And he made Dricus work for the most part. He really did. So the game plan was smart from him, because a lot of people, including Sean Strickland, felt that past that second round, Khamzat would quit and DDP would take over, because DDP is tough. He gets a second win in fights, and Izzy even said that on his own channel. He said, like, Dricus completely threw me off, like, with the second win that he got in the third round. So I don't know what you guys think. Damon says it's all fun and games until Khamzat takes his mask off, and it was DDP all along, and still. I don't know. The way the fight played out, what I honestly expected. So I wasn't mad. I'm a hypocrite, though. I only like wrestling when the guy I want to win is doing it. At least you're honest, mate. At least you're honest. I mean, look, I think we're all victims of doing that, right? We really are. But in a way, when these guys just come out and dominate like that, it makes it exciting. It puts them up on a pedestal, right? And it makes that time that they lose even more special, right? It's like Anderson Silva, for example. Like, when he was doing the whole Matrix stuff, everyone was like, literally no man on this planet can beat this guy. And then it takes like someone like a Chris Weidman, which everyone counted out, to get the job done because he wanted it more. You know? But who will be Khamzat's next opponent? Who will it be? Let's head back into this rankings then, so you guys can take a look. Will it be Nassourdine Imavov, or will it be Carl Borralho next to fight for gold? That fight, I believe, is happening in UFC Paris at the beginning of September, so it's right around the corner. And which of these fighters pose the toughest test for Khamzat? Personally, I think Carl Borralho does, because he can wrestle, he's got more of a physical presence, and his boxing's been coming on quite well as well, right? So, does Khamzat take more risks in that fight and make it a stand-up affair like he did in the Burns fight? Because we did see more stand-up from him. And Burns, being a shorter guy, could sprawl out of danger. Imavov, on the other hand, I think he has underrated wrestling. And I think he was born in Dagestan, wasn't he? Yeah, he was born in Dagestan, Russia. And he has looked good in those exchanges. But he's also a sniper on the feet as well. So who do you guys think it will be? It is very tough. I don't think a lot of people are quite fans of Imavov. Like, Borralho has like the whole like fighting nerds thing behind him, so I guess he's kind of gaining some popularity there. Damo says Khamzat is just a nightmare for middleweight. Majority of the top 5, maybe top 10 are strikers. It's like throwing a snake in a pit of rabbits. Spot on, mate. Prospect versus Pico, says George Murray. Timing doesn't make sense for me. Yeah, no, spot on, Damo. Spot on. It is true. Like, it's hard to really see. Rainier Derrida has got some great grappling. He's piped up since the win. He really wants the Khamzat title fight. Is it going to come down to who's more popular? Are the UFC just going to give it to him anyway? Are they going to try and get one more title fight out of Khamzat before the end of the year, just to break that kind of one fight a year curse that he's on at the moment? I'd like to see RDR get the shot. I would. His striking's a little bit suspect. All right, okay, he stopped matey boy Phenom. His name's gone out of my head. It's getting tired, mate. With a body shot, but he's got some good jiu-jitsu. Maybe he poses Khamzat some threats down there. But if I'm honest, if Dricus can't get back to his feet, then I can't see Rainier Derrida doing the same, if I'm honest. So I got to give you guys a curveball in this, Because if I'm the UFC, I'm not giving any of those guys the shot next. Because there's someone who's been waiting for a little while for a title shot. Here's the one title defense I bet you didn't think of. Yes, middleweight is hotting up with a long list of potential contenders. Your Imavovs, your Doritas, your Anthony Hernandez's, your Carvajalios. A lot of fights to be played out, mind you. Islam Makhachev is moving up in weight to take the title shot from Shavkat Rakhmonov, whom, by the way, has just entered the pound-for-pound rankings. Because if I bring this up here... Oh, wrong one. That's me. If I bring this up here... Where's it gone? There we go. For you guys to look at. He fits in down at number 15 there. Why have they suddenly done that? Apparently Charles Oliveira slipped out. Why wasn't Shavkat in it originally? Right? This is what I'm starting to think about here now. This is what I'm starting to think, right? So you see where I'm going at with this. So do you think the UFC will look to make Chimaev versus Rakhmonov? Is that a more interesting fight for you guys? Because I think it is, right? When you look at it, right? When you break it down, both guys undefeated. One has better wrestling, Chimaev. One has better striking, Rakhmonov. Chimaev's takedown defense, by the way, 85%. Rakhmonov's takedown defense, by the way, 85%. Chimaev's significant strike accuracy is 60%. Rakhmonov's striking accuracy, significant, is 60%. You can't tell me you wouldn't want to see that fight. Right? He's been waiting in the wings at welterweight for some time. Yes, injuries have been a factor for him and a bit of a struggle. But the fact that Islam's going to slot in there and fight Jack Della Maddalena, that benches him again. Right? So who do you pair him up with in the welterweight division? Who do you pair him up with? Because what was Rakhmonov's last fight? Ian Machado Gary. That was like time ago. December last year. Right? What do you guys think? I'm not even joking here. I would make that fight if I'm the UFC. Because, yeah, like, I guess it also depends on... I guess there are a lot of options, right? Because if the winner of Imavov and Barhalio, it's a 5-rounder. If one of them is injured during that fight, that's going to set the title fight back. So then Rainier Derrida is your only option, which I think is fun. I'd like to see the fight. But Rakhmonov's is a better fight. You can hype that one up so much better. Come on, guys. Let's get some chats. Hamzat versus Pico, says Damo. RDR is too limby for Hamzat. Will grab something and bend it away it shouldn't bend. Agreed. Yeah, he's got some mad strength, and he was going for submissions against Dricus. I think Dricus was just tough it. He toughed it out. Don't say Fluffy. I would like to see Fluffy as well. I just think Fluffy's a fight away from getting up there. The UFC will give him a solid fight. I think I said before, Sean Strickland makes a lot of sense. Former champion. Once you beat someone like him, or even like the loser of Imavov, Barhalio, once you beat one of them, you're there for the taking. So yeah, that's what I can see. The bigger crime is Arman being 14. Yeah, I noticed that as well. I actually noticed that as well. Like, how is Arman in there? I mean, look, I think Arman is very talented, but we still need to see him in a title fight. We do. And the UFC are just, we've said about it enough times, haven't we? Playing for the Dodgers with that curveball, says George Murray. Well, you're welcome. Don't be shocked if Ilya is next for Hamza. Like, I know it's hypothetical. I know, like, we talk about it quite a lot. People jump in divisions for title fights. It is a common theme here, isn't it? Ilya doing it and Mahashev doing it at the same time, but they're also two of the UFC's biggest stars who are active at the moment. Let's not forget about that. So yeah, or would you guys, or do you think Shavkat should just wait it out for the title shot? He could be a backup, right? Backup fight for, oh mate, imagine that. JDM or Islam pull out, and you've got Shavkat as the backup. Woo! Either way, Shavkat versus Islam is a dream fight as well. You can't tell me you wouldn't want me to be pumped for that. Shavkat versus JDM is also fun because JDM, I think we all counted out in that Bilal fight. If he can beat Bilal Muhammad, why can't he beat Shavkat as well? I know Shavkat is very awkward. He's got a long range on him. He can wrestle as well, and he hits hard. So, yeah, I'm not saying that Shavkat and Bilal are like the same fighter, not a chance. But I'm saying there's an inch there that JDM takes that fight and does well in it. I think that that Shavkat would be favourite. Of course he would be. You know? Awesome chats tonight, guys. Awesome chat. Smash like on the video if you've not done so already. Another question I want to ask you guys then as well is, how long do you think Chimaev's title reign will last? Going back to this, you know, he's now the Thanos of the middleweight division. Does he defend the belt 2 times? Does he defend it 5 times? Or will it be 10 times, and which would be matching Anderson Silva's record? How can you see it? Like, surely he'll go on and do more things than Khabib did and get more than 3 title defenses. The reason I throw Khabib's name out there, okay, he's been compared to Khabib lately just because of his style, etc. Overall, I think maybe he is better. Is just a better, well-rounded game, maybe, than Khabib. Or we've been underestimating Khabib's striking. He dropped Conor after all. So yeah, I don't want to get too much into that though. As for Dricus du Plessis, I've got to give him Rainier de Ridder, who just beat Robert Whittaker via decision. He may have to stay active because there are fighters ahead of him, right? And again, similar to Anthony Hernandez, that's another option. Hernandez could very well get he's in the same situation as RDR. He could also get Dricus du Plessis next as well. And I think Dricus is going to have, I think he's going to want a quick turnaround. I really do. I think he's going to want to really get that belt back next. So yeah. Dama says, where does McGregor fit into this? He's going to fight at middleweight, right? We are all talking as if Hamzat will fight again within a year. Yeah. I reckon he will get stripped. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I actually thought that as well. He could be another one of those people who doesn't lose the belt, but eventually gets stripped from it. See what champion life is like for Hamzat next. I'm being honest, I don't think he ever defends. His whole thing is being the hunter. Being the hunted won't suit. He will give up the belt, either move up or down and scare another division. Yeah, mate. Seeing what he did to Dricus there was like, he could definitely do that at light heavyweight. And I think there's much more exciting fights for him at light heavyweight. But again, how many title defenses would that take? He could get a few title defenses, get stripped for something stupid that he's done, missing weight, etc. Or he'd just vacate and go up. Okay, so let's head on to, then, let's clear that, to the news part of things. Ooh, that's gone up, isn't it? Because I'll put these headphones on for now to play this clip. Because we get my reaction to it. It's Sean Strickland, what he said about Hamzat Chimaev prior to this fight. And there's a few things to take away from it.
So I keep getting asked about my predictions. I'll give it to you, man. I think that Dricus is going to break him 5th round. The only thing is, when you train with these guys, man, when you train with these Chechenians, for 1 round, dude, it is like you're wrestling a parasite. Like, they go full parasite. Now, I've been training with these guys for so long that, like, I kind of know how to do it, and I'm not really too threatened by it. But I just don't know if Dricus is experienced training with these guys like I have.
True.
But, you know, man, I think what people overlook, though, and I think this is where this fight's going to come down to, who's a bigger man?
Who's a bigger man?
Chimaev's a weak man. I know he's made his entire career about being this big, scary boogeyman. But, like, dude, you look at his history. Every time he's had a tough fight with a welterweight, there's always some fucking excuse. You know, I broke my hand. It's fucking Ramadan. The reason why I look like this is because this. Like, no, dude, it's because you got tested, and the test came back. It's like, you're not really that big, scary of a man. And you know, even like COVID, dude, like the guy retired during COVID. You know, I was the one that retired him. He happened in our gym, trained with me, walked out of the gym, the whole gym seen it. And I think it just kind of, it goes to show you that he's a weak man. And I'll give you an example. Like, you could remove my lung, you could, whatever the fuck it takes. I'm going to stay in there and fight.
He's
But the fact of the matter is, Ali had to call you and drag you back into this sport. You're always on the cusp of wanting to leave and get out of it. You know, and I'll give you another example. There's one time I made a joke about Chechnya, and it wasn't a bad joke. He just kind of took it the wrong way. So he sends a group message in chat. He starts talking shit to me and threatening me, and I'm like, you know, listen, dude. I actually kicked Chris Curtis out of the chat because he's trying to de-escalate it.
That's the funny
part.
So
I sent him a message. I'm like, listen, you misunderstood, dude, but you said some shit. I will see you at 3 o'clock. Show up. Be a fucking man. His next message was, oh, no, brother, I misunderstood. It's okay. And I think where this fight really plays out is who's a bigger fucking man. And I just think Dricus is going to fucking break him. I just don't think Chimaev has the heart to fucking fight a bigger, better man. So, yeah, my predictions is Dricus breaks him round 5.
First of all, how thick does he look right there? He looks puffy, right? He's definitely pushing heavyweight there, right? Second of all, what he was talking about, just completely talking trash about Khamzat being weak and that he's not this scary dude. What I see there is Strickland trying to set himself up with a future fight against him. You know, he talks about this trash, the fact that they trained together for a brief period of time. There was, I guess, a bit of beef and a misunderstanding in group chats, etc., or Strickland's sense of humor. And now it works out even better for Strickland because we got a new champion. He could be a win away from getting another shot at gold. And you can't tell me that you wouldn't want to see Strickland versus Khamzat down the line. I don't know what you guys make of that. But yeah, his pick was totally wrong. Like mine was. But yeah, I haven't seen anything from Strickland since that, so I don't know what you guys make of that. He came in at 183. He can make 170. He's proved it. He could be Islam's nightmare. Yeah, it was quite low, wasn't it, for middleweight? You're right there, but I just think he's too big now for 170. 170, 185 is quite a bit of a jump, and what does Khamzat walk around at, I wonder? You know? Damo miss you, man, says Ash. Sean is basically hoping DDP wins so he don't look so bad. There's another angle. That's a good angle as well. You're right. Yeah, because, I mean, look. Yeah, this boogeyman and Dricus goes in there and beats him. It's true. That is true. And then, yeah, I think Sean, in reality, Sean was expecting Chimaev to lose, and then he would still then fight Chimaev afterwards, right? I can't remember where Chimaev moved up 3 spots, and that's it. So, yeah, he's still in the mix. Just realised the UFC tried giving us Nate versus Khamzat. Thank God that never happened. Yeah, that was horrendous. The build up to that event was crazy, wasn't it? Like, I'm so glad that we got better matchups because Nate finished on a high, or he finished his UFC contract on a high, gave the UFC a massive middle finger when he beat Tony Ferguson, and then Chimaev just completely destroyed Kevin Holland, and Kevin Holland must have been a huge underdog in that fight. Yeah, throwback. The last thing we'll talk about is Frankie the Answer Edgar has joined Bare Knuckle. the former lightweight champion and Hall of Famer, will be fighting Jimmy Rivera in his debut. And look, this actually pained me. I sent this to our Discord. The Discord, the link is in the description. And of course, it's not good to see, really. Like, especially when Frankie had those horrendous knockout losses towards the end of his MMA career. Why would you then go into a brutal game that is bare knuckle? Will he get paid? Yes. It also says a lot about some of the extra things that Frankie is doing since retiring from fighting. Just aren't paying the bills. I think he had his own gym, right? I thought he was going to get into coaching and stuff, or he's been, helping his boys out with the wrestling coaching and stuff. And then you also got the podcast as well. Maybe the podcast isn't doing too great. This is not a look that I want to see. I think I wonder if Ash has tried messaging him. Hopefully we can share his thoughts of why he's doing this, because that's what I want to know from it. Izzy versus Sean 2 wouldn't be bad. Yeah, I'm a big advocate for that fight as well, Damo. It's just Sean's got to serve suspension, isn't he? Frankie needs to give it a rest, mate. 100%. Maybe a juiced up Frankie might be something cool. Look, I mean, Jimmy Rivera is going to be juiced up. There's no doubt about that. So, and look, if he gets knocked out in that, it's going to be so sad to see. And what I feel for would be his family having to see it again, because the Corey Sandhagen knockout was awful. The Chris Gutierrez knockout was also awful. We just don't need to see it, man. I've seen enough Hamzat versus Frankie. Well, at least I don't know if Hamzat would probably still win by a knockout, to be fair. All right, awesome stuff, guys. I need to wrap this up because this got late. I've gone on way too long chalking it up with you guys, but you guys have been amazing as always. Don't forget now to hit a like on the video because we're a UFC fan channel where fan opinions matter most. And like we always say, don't watch alone, watch along. We'll be back this weekend for a live watch along, but it'll be a much earlier time. For us in the UK, it's going to be 11 a.m. for the UFC Fight Night in China. Johnny Walker is getting sacrificed to the Chinese gods as he takes on the guy whose name I can't even say yet, who has been knocking everybody out in the first round. So the odds on him getting the knockout against Johnny Walker are very, very slim. But if you want to see our reaction to it, then make sure you tune in for the live watch along this weekend. As I said, hit that notifications bell because we'll be giving you much more content as well. It's 10. My girlfriend has school tomorrow. Bye. All right, Damo. Best of luck, my guy. Good to see you in the chats as always. Likewise with George and some of the earlier comments from Ash as well. Ciao for now, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.